Hi, Yvonne.
Hey, Evie. Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to everyone else. Great to see you. How are you?
Nice. Today is a good day, and I'm like ready for another chat, ready to unpack another saboteur and see how they behave and make me feeling alone. Good thing we're not alone.
Indeed. Oh my goodness. So yes, we have another saboteur, and this week we're looking at I'm Alone through the lens of the Restless. And would you believe it? That happens to be another one of mine. So literally after the judge, my top two saboteurs, the avoider, the restless. And for me, again, that realization of how saboteurs like twin up, they pair up, and how they activate each other. For me, the restless and the avoider, so hand in hand. So we're going to kind of look at that today and see how, if the restless is one of your leading saboteurs, how it can be impacting your relationships, how it can be pushing people away from you as opposed to pulling people into your circle. And I find this one really interesting for a number of reasons, because generally speaking, when I speak to people, they'll usually say, "Oh, I'm really drawn by your energy and I love da 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 da." At the same time, which is great. At the same time, though, it's knowing that actually when my restless saboteur is in overdrive, and admittedly, this really doesn't happen that often now, but I can still look back and see when it has, that actually when that is in overdrive, what it can do for other people is send them into like a headspin and overwhelm, because there's just so much coming at them. So it's a really interesting one. I mean, I love my restless, and I say that hand on heart that I kind of love, because the underlying strengths of the restless are my essence. So I know, like, the energy, the sense of fun, the creativity, the playfulness, liking to get stuff done, that all of those underlying strengths, I like to think, if not believe, that they are the place that I operate from most of the time now, especially with my raised awareness of what it's like when I come out of the strengths and go into the saboteur behaviors. How was it for you? Did the restless come up at all for you, Evie? How was that?
It's not in the on top saboteurs, but it does show up somewhere there in the middle, and it is I have felt restless mostly when things change a lot, and until I find the equilibrium in my space in my life, then there are a lot of things that need to happen, and I find that I'm in the mode of trying and dropping quite a lot of stuff, and I think that is how the restless shows up for me. But I can see what you're saying about that, like somebody that has very strong restless can get other people quite overwhelmed, because from the moment that they are they sort of think they get what you want to tell them, then there are another 10 other things that are thrown at them, and they're like, okay, I just thought I had it. Not really. So I think that definitely can get people a bit wary, or not wanting to be in that situation, because who wants to be overwhelmed? I mean, and when we can pinpoint where the overwhelm comes from, then it's easier to just stay away,
Yes.
especially when the overwhelm comes from the outside, because many times we do sort of overwhelm ourselves and we don't know what to do with that. But yeah, that's I think a very good point what you made there with regards to the overwhelm.
Yeah.
So like, do you have like a real life example or of how that showed up in a sense that you know, kept you sort of isolated, just
Definitely.
because of the restless?
I have
Okay.
probably got many. But there's one in particular that I remember. It's an old one, but I remember it because as I became more self-aware, I realized the impact of that particular behavior, how it was showing up. So being, one of the things about the restless, it's like the restless wants to be busy doing stuff. It doesn't really care, I don't think, too much about what the stuff is, as long as it's busy doing something, right? So it's always engaged with something. And I can remember a time, and my son was, given that he's in his 30s now, but he was probably about, I want to say 8-ish, 9-ish at the time. And I can remember being in the home we had then, and I was doing some work, and I had my back to him. And he was like, Mum, blah, 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 wanting to ask me something. I can't remember what it was he was trying to ask me. But I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to do this thing that I'm doing. And so I answered him, but I didn't even turn around to acknowledge him. So he got an answer, not necessarily the one that he wanted, or perhaps even the right one as I think about it. Because I was so hell bent on finishing the thing that I was doing. So that need to be immersed in something, what that meant for him was actually, did he feel heard? Did he feel really heard? Did I really honor him being there in that moment by not even turning around, giving him eye contact or any of those things? And and for me, so it's a little bit of one of those memories that is like, oh gosh, you could have done so better. You could have done so many other things. And also understanding that, listen, if you are doing anything, that if you haven't got the capacity to stop and be present with someone, let them know so that they can stop talking and find a better time, right? Because there's nothing worse than actually devaluing someone by not giving them the attention that they deserve to have. And that for me was definitely one where, that felt very much like as I look at it now, like a pushback, I hear what you're saying, but it's really not that important because I need to do this thing. And seeing how that potentially impacted him, but also how that would impact anyone. How would I feel if someone was doing that? How would any of us feel when we want to have somebody's attention, we want to be heard, and it's kind of like they're half tuned in whilst they're doing something else because this other thing is just so important. So that for me is kind of one situation. And interestingly, a much more recent one, and that actually was yesterday. And this was interesting because I had a number of things that I wanted to get done. And of course, the restless loves this. Like, oh my goodness, look, she's got loads of things needs to get done. How can I cause confusion for her? Because what happens is the restless is like, oh, do this thing. Oh, okay, no, you started that, but really go and do this thing because this is more important, or this is more exciting. Oh, but what about this thing? Because so I literally sat here and listened to it play out. So it didn't trigger me into doing anything, but I was like, oh my gosh, this voice has been like the root of so many things in my past, as I literally listened to it, trying to pull me left, right, and center. And thank goodness for mental fitness, me being able to sit with it and actually just listen and watch and not allow it to trigger me into doing all these different things that it wanted me to do. But I could feel that sense of overwhelm coming up. I could feel it coming up because it was suddenly, I had a list of things to do, but now this list felt and looked ginormous because this voice was telling me, go here, no, go there, no, do this. It was enlightening to sit and observe and to tune in and actually think, wow, when you come out guns blazing, you go all out. Seriously.
I can imagine. I feel overwhelmed just hearing you. I mean, but it is great to. I mean, you touched on 2 points there that are, I think, very important. The one is that we're talking about being alone through because of our saboteurs or how they play out, but also you touched on how some other people around us might feel alone because of our saboteurs, because they are not properly acknowledged, because they are not properly heard. And that's a big thing, because we are talking about us and how the saboteurs show up with regards to us, but we're always sort of in community with somebody, and it is interesting to hear how that shows up for somebody else as well. And then you touched on the internal overwhelm and how difficult it is for us if we're not trained to actually completely give in to that full-on overwhelm and end up doing absolutely nothing because we really don't know where to start from because of all this noise in our heads. And it is, I don't know where we get that, but probably it has to do with conditioning. But like, we never have heard that, it is okay to start somewhere. don't don't worry too much about being perfect, being right, it doesn't matter, because even if that's not the right place to start from, if you start from somewhere, at least it is like I don't know, like a ball of thread, like okay, you might not know where the beginning is, but if you start somewhere, it starts unraveling eventually. So that is I think a very interesting point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the I am alone part of this with the restless really is that because of the restlessness and sometimes the ability. So when we look at the strengths under the ability to kind of like bounce is incredibly tiring for somebody to watch, let alone try and interrupt and be a part of. I mean, you kind of are like pushing people away with your energy because it's like, oh my gosh, how is she doing all of that stuff? And actually it's really uncomfortable for other people, or can be. So I know for me, I have to, I have high energy. I have to be really mindful of who I'm around and how much of that energy I kind of let out of the bottle, if you like, at any one given time, and be able to see how it's landing with other people. And and this is not about me changing myself to fit in with everybody else. This is literally about making sure that I don't drive other people into any state of overwhelm or send them running for the hills because, wow, that was just all too much and I can't cope. So there is some of that. And I think that the restless saboteur can be really good at avoiding conversations that are going to be uncomfortable. So the avoider comes into this because the restless will just make itself busy. The restless will just be like, I don't really want to have that conversation, so I'm just going to get busy over here. Right. So the restless has this way of literally avoiding. This is where I think the two come hand in hand, doing the meaningful conversations or things that need to happen. And it will have a perfect excuse. It's because I had these 20 things that I needed to get done. And again, that really just devalues the other person who wants to have the conversation, who needs to have the conversation. So always having to see, what's the impact on me? I may be going into overwhelm. I may be feeling stressed. I may be feeling all these things. And actually, what's the thing that's happening for the other person? Because it's just like, well, if she's not going to sit and listen to me, if she's not prepared to hear what I've got to say, if she doesn't want to know my thoughts and my opinions, what is the purpose of the relationship? Yeah. Professional or personal, right? That is a real easy way for someone to just think, oh, it's just, this is balmy and it's not worth it. So there's a lot to be aware of with the restless, because so much of it in the moment feels good. You know, like, I'm happy when I'm getting stuff done. No if, buts or maybes. I do love it. However, I also realize now that if I'm engaging with other people, I need to be able to down tools and be completely present with the person. You know, imagine me being here with you now, and then I'm picking up a pen and I'm writing stuff over here because I'm, you know, there's that, oh yeah, I hear you, but I'm doing this. You know, it could be interpreted as rude, even if it's rude is not what it's meant to be, or if that's not what it is. But for me, the restless can be incredibly destructive in a relationship without actually even knowing, and really pushing people away, and then thinking, you know, why don't people want to be with me? Why don't people want to work with me? Why don't they want, this is all good. But it's not all good if it's out of control and it's wild and it's left, right and center. It's just not.
And it is, I think, like on top of that, like a restless that's overplayed can get you doing a lot of things, but not necessarily the things that can move you forward, because you use the doing as an excuse. And I think, to me, sometimes, even though it's lower in the list, it feels like that, like, you know, I'm going to do this thing that's going to move things forward, after I do that thing that not necessarily and you know, important, but it sort of like distracts you, and then the thing that you really want to do is pushed back, and then you're tired, or you're going to leave it for tomorrow or whatever, and that becomes like a vicious cycle, because you are constantly thinking, but I'm doing so many things, how come I'm not moving forward? That is a trap for a lot of us, I think, when it comes to the restless. Definitely. And also it becomes like some sort of trigger for other people, like you're always so busy. Why don't you have what you want to have? Why don't you do what you want to do? Why, you know? And then it becomes a completely different discussion, and the judge comes into play, and oh my god, I mean, it can be really messy, you know.
Absolutely. The restless is a great trigger for so many of the other saboteurs. I mean, all of the saboteurs can trigger the other saboteurs in other people, you know. And I think that it's that thing of having to be so aware of those saboteurs. This is why I'm really grateful to have this awareness, so that I can literally pinpoint a moment when I think, I can feel the restless is coming out to play, and actually, no, I'm not having it. And the first thing that I do is pause. If I have a pen in my hand, if my hands are on the laptop, if I get that sensation, I just pause. I just stop. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to hear what you're telling me, and then I'm going to let it go, you know, whether that's doing PQ reps, doing some breath work, whatever it is that I feel I need to do in the moment, so that I don't get caught in it. Because that's the thing is that it triggers you get caught in it, and before you know it, you're in the thick of it. And like you said, you get to the end of the day, like, I had so many really important things to do, and I've done none of them, but I've done all this other stuff, which wasn't important. Why? How did that happen? Because I got caught up in that trigger. So for me, one of the most important things is pause and reflect. Pause so that you can acknowledge and hear and observe what's happening, and then just reflect on how that's impacted you physically, and what it has stopped you perhaps from doing, what conversations has it stopped me from having. And I think also for me personally is that I know that when I'm with people, so this is really focusing on the I am alone part, is that when I'm with people now, if they are talking to me and I'm in a space where I'm listening, then that's what I'm doing. Pen, paper goes down, hands are off the laptop, phone is on the side. I am not going to listen and be doing something else because it's a distraction. And of course, that very action just triggers the other person. I guarantee one of their saboteurs will then come out and be having a field day with them. And then, of course, the saboteurs start doing their dance in the middle, and the people, us, so we're kind of like, oh my gosh, what is this madness that is happening here? Why does this feel so dysfunctional? So, yeah, I think for me, that ability to, I know when the feeling's coming up, so I can acknowledge it is a feeling that comes up. And then I'm just like, okay, I feel that feeling. I need to put everything down. I need to pause. I need to observe. I need to listen. I need to do that thing. And then just say, okay, what do I need to recenter myself? And then what is it that I truly need to do? So, I sometimes like to tap into my navigate, my sage power of navigate, what's truly important to get me back on track. If the conversation that this person is asking to have is truly important, okay, I need to either down tools now to have that conversation, or I need to say to that person, listen, can we do this at 5 o'clock or whatever, whatever that thing is, and be that much more aware.
It is quite interesting how this type of work can make time seem so much more, doesn't it? And I'm saying that because when you have all the things that like in the beginning of the day that you know that you have to do, and when you are even with the poses of listening and understanding what matters the most, you sort of like have that tendency of like getting more of the proper things, the things that you really, really wanted to do done, and make the most out of every hour. Because we all have seen people that we say, okay, we have the same, like I want to say 24 hours, okay, 24 hours minus the 8 that we sleep more or less, the same 16 hours, and they do like 3 times what we do. Why? How is this happening? And it is potentially because they have probably like an understanding of how to stop the overwhelm and utilize the time in the right way. And I think that what you said about posing, that by itself is a very strong tool to be able to actually get back into what you want to do and what is important for you at the moment in time, instead of just being driven as an automaton throughout the day, because that's when we lose the time. That's when we realize, oh my God, there is not enough time. It's when things are becoming automatic, when there is intention to what we are doing, then that disappears, and the hours are full, but they're full properly, I suppose, if
Absolutely.
I can say that.
And I think it's about clarity. So I think a lot for me is about, being really clear on what's truly important. So again, going back to navigate, for me, I always bounce back to that. What's truly important, and what's truly important in this moment or this day or whatever that thing is, over the 200 things I could be doing. There's always something that you could be doing, And interesting, when we talk about the 24 hours and we all have the same time, why can't we all do the same thing? Well, do you know what? We all have different schedules. We all have different responsibilities. We all have lots of different things that changes the format of what those 24 hours look like. And I think we need to respect that. But when we want to get something done, actually saying, is this truly important as I look at it? is it truly important? Is it going to move me in the direction which I want to go in? And at the same time, am I also being respectful of the people around me as I do this thing? You know, am I taking other people into consideration? Because everything that we do has an impact on others. So we can't just flit and think that there is no impact other than ourselves. You know, well, if I choose to be this way, it's all good because it's all fine. So what is that impact that I'm having on others? Is it helping them in any way, or is it hindering them? And then if it's hindering, what's the discussion I need to have with that person? So it just causes, for me, like the pauses really help me to truly understand what it is that what I am intending to do, and are the list of things that I'm saying I need to get done related to that intention? Because if they're not related to that intention, what am I doing them for? Or why am I getting myself caught up in them? So for me, it really does. Mental fitness for me is just this beautiful replication of being in the gym and doing the physical stuff, which I'm so used to, and I kind of get it. So it's just like just translating. Like if I'm doing one exercise, I'm not now going to go and try and do 10. How can I? There's one. Why am I trying to be on 10 different machines when I can only really work one? And that's exactly the same as we're doing things, and we're trying to get things done. That clarity and that focus, that ability to be on that one thing is just so much more powerful than this ridiculous list of 20 things that need to get done. I'm not saying that 20 things don't need to get done. However, you need to be able to say what's important right now. What's the
Yeah.
most pressing and moving thing now? And if other people are around you, ensuring that they get that they're part of that. That for me is communication. Taking time to communicate, massively important.
Absolutely, and I think that the I am alone again can show up if there is no clarity, because people that don't understand where you're going with whatever you're doing cannot really be there for you, cannot really be present. And some of them might not even want to, because they are really confused with what's going on. And with, like, usually when other people are confused, we're also a little bit confused about what we are doing. It's not just that, like, we are completely so focused that nobody else
Yeah.
understands what we're doing. There is an element of confusion or of not clarity in the things that we want to do that causes other people to see us as that chaotic
Yes.
situation anyway, and that they cannot really take part in that because they don't know how, they don't know why.
Exactly.
So I see that as like really triggering the I am alone, no, nobody understands me. I mean, do you understand yourself at that stage?
Exactly. And and I think that the other, the other part of that I'm alone with the restless is that, oh, she's too busy to be interrupted. She's got so much on her plate, all these things that people just like, well, I'll find somebody else because she's, or he, whatever. They're too busy. They got too much going on. And generally, you know, and that word busy grates me so much because I just what is it really saying? I'm not sure it's saying anything. It just means that you've got lots going on. Doesn't mean to say that any of it makes sense, any of it is necessary, any of it is moving you where you want to go. It doesn't underline any of those things. So
Mm,
I certainly don't want to be seen as somebody who is busy, because busy for me is just it's nondescript. It's like I am working on a project. I have got X, Y, and Z that I need to get done, and I need to get them done today. That give me clarity. And I've had to learn to communicate that way because, I know that I have definitely thrown a few people like into complete confusion with like, well, I'm doing this, but then when I've done that and I've got that, and then there's, and then having to listen to myself and thinking, hold on a moment, why am I doing all of this? Hold on, where has the stuff that's truly important gone? Which is why I have, like the past year has just been a beautiful revelation and refocus and a re-everything, because I have literally taken the time to say, that is not, stop getting caught in that. That is not important, or it's not what you want. It's not what you need to be doing right now. It bears no relevance. You've just got caught up in it. Let it go. So I've had, lots of releasing of stuff, which means that my focus is tighter. I have much more clarity when I'm communicating with people. I can be much clearer about what it is that I'm saying. And that helps people, and that draws people in. And that, for me, is the massive difference that I have felt. I personally have felt in the past year, is that I can easily communicate what's important, what I'm doing, where I'm spending my time. And, I don't know, maybe a year or a little bit more ago, I would have probably been able to communicate it, but it would have been messy. That's the truth.
I hear you. I hear you. It's I don't think that somebody that is a restless should worry about that. There's just more about managing all of this, or finding a way to just some productivity tools can work. Basically, just do the things that you want to do, but like in the order that makes sense to you, of course.
Yes.
And don't get dragged in anything else while you're doing that one thing. I think that makes things so much easier, so much better, and so much easier to explain as well.
Yes.
To yourself and others, if you need to explain to others. But I mean, if you are working with teams and stuff, I think that it is important to be able to explain to them what you're doing, or where the business is going, or whatever else.
Yeah.
So
definitely. As long as there are other people on the radar. I mean, we work collaboratively. There has to be communication. There has to be communication. We need to know who's doing what when. I mean, these are important things. And so even in that situation, what the restless is like, I'm going to go off and do 20 things over here, and feel like so much has been accomplished. But actually, what if the other person has already gone off and done 10 of those things? Because you didn't bother to communicate it, or you didn't give the other person an opportunity to say, well, I'm going to do these things. Do you know what I mean? So it's really easy to impact relationships in the restless state. So, what I would like to say, if anyone is listening and like, oh my goodness, that is me, restless, it comes up a lot. This is not a beat you up moment. This is not a terrorizing you moment. This is literally an opportunity to say, wow, I have not been probably operating as effectively as I could be, and I'm allowing things, lists, whatever, to operate me. And I'm not considering what truly matters. And I'm not considering the people around me. I'm not really doing those things. And actually, if I did that, that would probably be more helpful. And in the end, something you touched on earlier, Evie, is I'd probably get more done. I'll get more done because I'd be doing the right things in the order and the way that they are required.
And I don't know if that is the case, but you can let us know here, is that if you end up having like a really big to-do list, and you start doing the things that need you do them, and the things that, sorry, I'm like, you focus to the things that you really should be doing, in a good way, should, right? Not you have to. Then doesn't it sometimes feel that list becomes smaller, because like a lot of things that were on this list start getting dropped off?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. You start to identify the stuff that, why is that even on the list? What made me think that was necessary? Or, actually, maybe it's something that needs doing, but I'm not the person that needs to do it. So that for me is also that slowing down and pausing, slowing down doesn't mean you're not doing anything. It's just giving your brain an opportunity to just really hold on a moment. Let's just really look at this and make real sense of it. That for me is like when I'm talking about slowing down, I'm just giving my brain and my body the opportunity to just, okay, hold on a moment. Look at all these moving parts. What's truly yours? What are you truly called to? And what's the other stuff that absolutely bears no relevance or doesn't relate to you? And who does it relate to? And what conversation do you need to have with said person if that is the case, and it works wonders. It works wonders. And I read something recently. Somebody was saying about, listen, when you're a high flyer and, high achiever and you've got high power jobs, you haven't got time to slow down. Well, I said, well, then that's an issue. I said, because if you haven't got time to slow down, to pause, to reflect, then the decisions that you're making may not be the best decisions you could be making. I'm just putting that out there.
It's counterintuitive. Yes, absolutely. I think on the contrary, you need to slow down if you are a high achiever.
Yeah.
To be able to, I mean, yes, you might be getting decisions on the fly, or you need to, do things twice as fast or hard, but you also need to pause. You also need to take that back seat and understand where you're going and where you're heading. Usually, let's face it, the high achievers most probably have the team to delegate as well. So that by itself needs some thinking, needs some posing.
Exactly.
You can't just
exactly. And we'll talk about high achievement another time. But yes, but that is, again, that when that saboteur comes up. So there are all these things. But with the restless, I think it's just, for me, it's coming back to that self-awareness, coming back to being able to see how it's been getting in the way without beating yourself up. I don't beat myself up about it. I don't think, oh my gosh, what an awful human being you've been. You should have done this. You could have done that. Oh, please, no. That is not what it's about. Being able to have that kind of lens where I'm like, oh, yeah, I see what's been going on there. And that is not good for me. That is not good for my energy. It's not good for the things that I want to achieve. It's potentially not good for the people around me. What am I going to do? How am I going to do things differently? That for me is, that's it. That's all I'm interested in. I am not interested in reprimanding self, feeling like a bad human being, because none of those things are supportive or help. It's literally about saying, okay, there are things that I need to put in place to ensure that I don't allow that behavior to keep on driving me down a road I have no desire to be on.
Makes absolute sense. Yeah. But that you can do only once you have an understanding of the voices and what is really driving you on your day to day, and how to manage it in a good way.
Indeed. And that's why, we have these conversations. It's why we keep on talking about positive intelligence, mental fitness. We keep on showing up and having you kind of like bringing these saboteurs into the light. It's never ever about making or wanting people to feel bad or wanting to almost disown even when they see it for themselves. It's like, I just don't want that. I don't want to see it. It's about the awareness that it brings and the opportunity to think, okay, what can I do about that? What's the changes that I need to make? Now that I have the awareness, I can do something about it. So it's not awareness for awareness sake either, because being aware can only take you so far. But it's what are you going to do with the awareness is the bit that truly matters. And that for me is why we started Permission to Thrive, right? That's why it's like, yes, we want you to understand the saboteurs. We want you to understand those behaviors. We also want you to know that there are things that you can do. And as you begin to learn those things and as you begin to change things, it changes your life. It changes your life. And that's something I can say with complete, for me, it changes your life. So so we're going to keep on talking about permission to thrive. We're going to keep on
Absolutely.
inviting brilliant midlife women to come and join us, because no doubt for the vast majority, if not all, there are things that could be better in your life, and better is another one of those words that I'm not sure if I like that word either, but could be more joyful, could be more fulfilling, could be more productive, could be more health driven, could be all of those things. And we know that the tools and resources that we use can help you get there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we've used it, we're using it, and we will be using it for years to come, because we know and we have seen the changes. And that is what matters. So come
Fantastic.
join us.
Fantastic. Come and join us. As
Come and
always, you've
join.
got QR codes behind us. You'll see them at the end. Have a conversation with myself or Evie. Find out a bit more about the community. See if it's something that might be able to help you on your journey. If it's not the right fit, hey, it's not the right fit. But if it is, then this is a real opportunity to be with women who want to support you, encourage you, and lift you up. Now, I also wanted to add there, and women who might challenge you a bit, because I like to with kindness always at the focus.
Absolutely.
So to
Absolutely.
challenge your thinking from a place of kindness, not a place of judgment.
Correct.
Because that also can help us. You know, I've certainly been challenged in conversations, and they have been helpful. They have not pushed me away. They have pulled me in. So we want to have lots of that. And we want to see more women rising to the top, because you know, our world needs it. That's the simple. That's the simple bit.
Definitely.
Because our world
And I
needs
want to
it.
say that there is growth in challenge, and you know, we cannot dismiss that. That is part of life, and that is part of what we're working with.
Yes, definitely. So, Evie, as always, joy and pleasure, blessing to have some time with you. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Yvonne. Thank you.
And for anyone who's listened in or is watching this on record, thank you so much. Comments are always welcome, and your thoughts. If anything, you know, whether it's like, oh my goodness, I so get that, or actually I disagree with that. It's all important. It's all, you know, we want to hear it. We want to hear it. So please post comments or reach out to us. That's what we're here for. But thank you all so much.
Thank you.